ABC Listen. Podcasts, radio, news, music and more.
Yeah, I'm pretty speechless, to be honest, so as you can probably tell.
To be honest, not a good time to be speechless.
Yeah, need to get some words going here.
Okay.
Brownlow medal winner Matt Rowell struggling to get his words out after claiming the AFL's highest individual honour. The Suns midfielder was somewhat of a surprise winner, which isn't to say he was undeserving, but it feels like any year we get a surprise victor, we get a predictable conversation. The award's flawed. The Brownlow's broken. How do we fix it? And that narrative was supercharged because one of the stellar individual games of the year from Nasiah Wanganeen-Milera also went under-rewarded. Cue outrage. So is the award busted? We're asking, of all people, an umpire. I'm Patrick Stack. This is ABC Sport Daily. Ray Chamberlain is a former AFL umpire. He's also part of the ABC's Aussie Rules coverage. You would have heard him calling the footy this year. Ray, we're here to talk about Matt Rowell's Brownlow victory. Could you maybe start by explaining or reminding us how votes get cast by umpires after a game?
Matt Rowell, what an incredible season. What a breakout year for him and the club more broadly. You know, being an observer this year off-field has been a really awesome experience for me. And to see a guy that has historically been incredible at, contested possession and winning his own ball, then to be able to add layers to his game, which all the experts in media have lauded all year, and then see that correlate to a Brownlow medal victory is pretty cool.
And I declare the winner of the 2025 Brownlow medal, Matt Rowell of the Gold Coast Suns.
In terms of the voting and how that all takes place, I think people need to recognise the differences between, say, the Brownlow medal and how that's voted upon versus other awards within the industry. Let's compare it to the Coaches Award. I think most people acknowledge that the coaches are the smartest people in the game in terms of understanding, what it is that opposition are doing and who's causing them the most trouble and what they're trying to do with their players, etc. So if we reference them, the coach gets 5, 4, 3, 2 and 1, and so does the opposing coach. So we acknowledge that that's the structure. So they don't have to discuss with anyone, they don't have to align with anyone, and they get time, statistics and an insight that they're implementing in the game to award those votes. The Brownlow medal, the 4 field umpires having left the ground after umpiring, the 4 field umpires get to vote 3, 2 and 1, and they have to come to a consensus. So the 4 individuals don't get to vote. They have to come to consensus. But what is really quite interesting for me as I reflect on it is if you take the top 12 vote getters of the AFL Coaches Award for season 2025, you compare that to the top 12 vote getters in this year's Brownlow medal, there's some haunting similarities.
So what you're driving into there is the fact that in terms of a broader execution, it seems like there's actually more symmetry than we might think. It's just at the pointy end of the outcome that we're seeing a level of tension between what the industry might think is the correct outcome and what has happened on the night.
I do think there's lots of different questions at play. So there's the broader sense, as I've intimated there, where you go, okay, well, the top 12 from the coaches is by and large the same top 12. From the AFL umpires. That's what this year shows. But questions around individual outcomes from individual games, I think there's questions that can be asked. But does that indicate a systemic problem? Does that indicate that the entire award needs to be ridiculed? Or do we have some outliers over 230-odd sets of votes cast for the season, and we've got a handful that we think potentially aren't aligned to what experts or the general public might think. So I think they're different debates, all with merit.
Do you think that criticism of the award is a criticism of umpires, Ray?
No, good question. And I think criticism, particularly at elite level in anything, is more than reasonable. Criticism and discussion and debate, super healthy, and I think probably necessary if we want to continue to evolve, grow, and be the best at whatever it is that you're doing, whether that's in business or whether that's, the Brownlow medal or whatever it might be. So criticism's fine. I do think that we live in a time where we get outraged really quickly over sometimes things that aren't potentially as outrageous as we like to make out.
St Kilda and Wanganeen-Milera, 3 votes. That's my view, anyway.
I looked at some individual games where votes were cast and I would have held a different opinion to what the umpires came up with. That's okay. And clearly you've only got to click on social media and you can see that other people feel similarly. But I think that's a different issue than is the award broken, which is what people are, which is what we're discussing sort of more broadly today.
As you've just sort of said there, we should be open to evolving or improving things. Are there things we could tweak to make the Brownlow a better award, do you think?
Well, it depends what better is, and it depends what the actual outcome that is that you're after. What is it that you're seeking that didn't happen? I've heard some different debate. Obviously, you like to listen to talkback or what the pundits are saying, and there's some discussion that potentially there were 3 games where Matt Rowell poll votes where people go not sure whether that's quite the right result. That's fine. So, what's the debate there, and what are we trying to make better? I think what people need to understand is that in the way in which the award currently stands, the umpires are not afforded the opportunity to take their gut feel and observations and marry that up with any sort of statistical support. So they're not provided any access to statistical data to support or dismiss their considerations. So people need to look at it through that lens.
That's an interesting point. And when I go to sport as a fan, I feel like sometimes my eyes tell me one thing and the stats tell me something else. As someone who's been an umpire, would you have a better all-round picture if you had access to the stats, or would it just be a different way that the award might be compromised or weighted?
That's the debate, right? Like, is the Brownlow medal for the person who, gets the most possessions? No, it's that's not what it's about. It's the fairest and best through the eyes of the umpires, and they have to come to agreement. So that's the nature of the award.
Handball away to Davies. Uniacke feeds it further forward. She's up to 53, one short of the all-time record. He gets it back. He equals the all-time mark with 54 and feeds Payne, who's got it in the corridor.
I do think, though, many times in my experience, you might have 1 or 2 that you go, no, we're really confident on best on ground. We're not quite sure where we sit on these 4 players. Someone might have kicked 3 off half back and had 25 touches, and then someone might have stopped the opposition player and rendered them useless and they've won by a point, and then someone else might have kick 5 goals, right, as key forward. And you go, wow, there's arguments to be made for all 3 of these players that they've had profound impact on this game. We've only got a 2 and a 1 left to go. How do we split the 3 players that we're here and we're debating, right? So that comes down to opinion. But knowing that the person had 25 and kicked 2, as opposed to not knowing, may help. But people will have different views of that because ultimately what we don't ever want to see, I don't think, is just a award that's entirely predicated around a data set that may or may not have relevance. Some possessions are worth far more than others, right?
Nasiah Wanganeen-Milera was a flashpoint last night. He failed to poll the full 3 votes for best of field in the round 20 clash with Melbourne, where it felt like he was on another planet in that game. And that drew a big reaction.
St Kilda, Melbourne, C. Petrarca, 1 vote. St Kilda, N. Wanganeen-Milera, 2 votes. Melbourne, J. Viney, 3 votes.
It's driven a lot of conversation today. When you see that happen and the instant reaction in the room and on social media, does it fill you with a sense of dread?
Did you watch the 4 quarters of that game, Pat?
I actually did.
Which is brilliant because I didn't see the full 4 quarters. I saw the second half. And so it's pretty hard to debate Naz's game, right? It was all time. Iconic, right? And we all go, wow.
Time starts now. Marshall scores that. He marks it 40 metres out. How does that happen? The siren's going to sound, and any score will give St Kilda the most extraordinary of victories. This would be the biggest 3/4 time comeback in VFL AFL history. Any score will do for the Saints to win it. Wanganeen-Milera, he kicks the goal. He is swamped by the Saints. And St Kilda has conjured a miracle victory under the roof.
I think what's really important to note is that, again, people can have alternate opinions. So Viney, who had 20-odd disposals and 16 tackles, he also played a whale of a game. I think it's reasonable to suggest with hindsight and what have you, that you could mount a very, very strong argument that Naz deserves the 3. But was Jack Viney's game abhorrently bad? No. But of course, it's going to be an example of an outlier, like I was talking about earlier. The outlier doesn't mean the system's necessarily broken or that the award's broken, but maybe on that circumstance, on reflection, the 3 votes and 2 votes might have needed to be swapped around.
Nick Dacos was another central character in the 2025 count. He's polled 70 votes in the last 2 seasons and not won the award, which some see as an injustice. Am I right in saying you see it differently, that you'd argue the umpires are clearly recognising the excellence, but it hasn't resulted in the ultimate outcome for Dacos?
I couldn't agree more. I mean, Nick Dacos is one of the most elite young footballers that is in the competition today.
Schultz hands it off to Nick Dacos, the master from 45. He's incredible! Nick Dacos! No one can stop him.
People, they go to the ground to watch him. Opposition teams have to plan so heavily to try and curtail the impact that Nick has on a game. And I love watching him play. I loved umpiring Nick. The fact is that you can't poll that level of votes over the last 2 years without being highly respected and regarded by the umpiring fraternity. They clearly are aligned with everyone else. But what you have to understand is that Nick will play in 24 home and away games at best, and there's another 210 games taking place. It's actually a little bit more than that. So there's a lot of games that are played that have Nick's not playing in, right? So when the Gold Coast play the Adelaide Crows, Nick's not playing in that game. And so the votes that are cast in that game, Nick has no bearing on. Nick is polling the most amount of votes out of anybody that are in the games that he's playing. I would have thought that's pretty clear indication that the umpires are in alignment with the general population, that this guy is a dead set jet.
Just finally, do you think the Brownlow medal is, inverted commas, broken and needs, inverted commas, fixing, or is it just kind of the way the audience is coming at it?
I think the Brownlow medal is a nuanced, bespoke award. It is what it is. The award that's won by the best and fairest player, as seen through the eyes of the umpires, where 4 umpires need to come to agreement to cast a 3, 2 and 1. And it's one award of literally dozens that are awarded every year. And I'd encourage you to go and have a look at all the different media outlets and see who their top 12 is, and then compare it to the Brownlow medal.
Ray Chamberlain, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Always great to have a chat, and enjoy the footy this weekend, Pat.
Headlines. Another Brownlow medalist, Lachie Neale, looks set to complete an incredible comeback and play in the grand final. The Lions captain trained in Queensland ahead of the season decider in front of 2,000 Brisbane fans. Neale has been struggling with a calf injury that appeared certain to end his season prematurely. Now, coach Chris Fagan has a difficult decision whether or not he takes the risk on a compromised star. Lions ruck Oscar Macken, he knows the situation well. He missed last year's grand final with a shoulder dislocation, but is a lock for the 2025 decider. Here's what he said about receiving the chance to make up for the missed premiership of last year.
I think I'm no different to any player in the competition. It's everyone's dream to get an opportunity to be a part of this week. So when you come together in pre-season, it's all a level playing field. The hunger's all the same, and just try and get to work and hopefully give yourself an opportunity.
Elsewhere, there's been further disruption at Essendon. Club president David Burham has written to members telling them he will stand down and hand over the role to ex-player and current Vice President Andrew Welsh. The news comes against the backdrop of drama surrounding captain Zach Merritt, who's understood to be eager to depart the Bombers. He addressed that matter at the Brownlow overnight.
I still feel the love. It's a place that I absolutely adore and have for 12 years. What happens beyond that, I don't know yet, but yeah, I love it regardless, and I still feel like Brad has love for me and support for me. So we'll see what happens the next few weeks as we work through what's next for all of us, but there's obviously plenty of factors at play and a fair bit of uncertainty as well.
In the NRL, Jerome Hughes is hoping to return from a fractured forearm to help the Melbourne Storm take on Cronulla in Friday night's preliminary final. The reigning Dally M medalist has a couple of training sessions remaining if he wants to prove his fitness ahead of a do-or-die clash. Finally, for many people, there's a big chance that at some point, you or I, we're going to lose our job. That is just the way of the world. With a bit of luck, you might get a little payout, which might buy you a little bit of time before you go to the next thing. I mean, Christian Horner of Red Bull fame, he got sacked from his F1 team principal role this year, and it turns out he got a little payout, according to the New York Times, in the vicinity of $100 million US. That buys more than just a little bit of time. I'm Patrick Stack. This is ABC Sport Daily, produced by Poppy Penny. Thanks to Channel 7 and Fox Footy for the extra audio used in this episode.
Discover more great ABC podcasts, live radio and exclusives on the ABC Listen app.